With the military attacks between India, Kashmir, and Pakistan earlier this year, much has been made about Pakistan's reliance on Chinese weapons, in particular the J-10C jets. Recent reports are that Egypt have also purchased these jets and Iran is set to as well. How should we, as part of anti-imperialist and anti-war movements, view this development? Is China entering the military-industrial complex, or are there distinctions we need to understand?
I think there are distinctions that need to be made and understood. And the first thing is that liberation does not come without struggle. And sometimes that involves armed struggle. And if you're talking about armed struggle, then weapons come into play. So, for example, there are three, perhaps four countries in the world that have the AK-47 on their flag or on their coat of arms. Why? Because the AK-47 was the instrument of national liberation movements. It's what allowed colonized people to fight back against the Western imperialists because finally, instead of going into battle and being mowed down with machine guns, they could actually fight back. So this is important to understand. It would be nice if all national liberation struggles simply happen through peaceful means, but it doesn't happen that way. The Korea is a good example. 1919, the world's greatest peaceful uprising, completely suppressed. It took decades of armed struggle in order for Korea, or at least half of Korea, to become liberated. So, with that understanding, the modern version of the AK-47 is the network drone. And you can see once again that the small actors can actually resist powerful imperial powers through certain kinds of network drone technologies. We see this happening, well, for example, in Central Asia, in West Asia. So inside that context, the Pakistan's use of J-10s to shoot down the most advanced Western jets, the Rafale and others, is kind of a game changer because it breaks the technological monopoly that the West had. The West has considered itself always to have a monopoly on power, a monopoly on violence, a monopoly on the technology of violence. And what that showed is that it was undermined. But the piece to understand about this is not about individual platforms or hardware. It is really about building relations because anytime there is the sale of military goods, there's usually some kind of relationship that is established, training and maintenance and supply, etc. So by taking on or considering the appropriation of certain types of weapons platforms, there's also a strong statement which is being made that alliances, military alliances, are being built. And this has to do with the fact that a single weapons platform doesn't mean anything. The modern war doctrine is joint arms, combined warfare. That is, you have planes are connected to surveillance aircraft, which are connected to radar, which are connected to decision centers, etc. All of this works in one coordinated electronic whole. And so, in a sense, when Iran considers taking on Chinese technology, they're also taking on a kind of ecosystem of Chinese defense. And I'm going out on a limb here, but I would say that this is probably a good thing because what's clear is that as the US moves into this kind of dying stage of imperialism, it is becoming more and more overtly violent. Just, the mask has fallen off. It's no holds barred. This is what we're seeing in Palestine, the mass atrocities, the ongoing in your face genocide, babies slaughtered, just this nonstop depravity. And For example, with the recent, attack on Iran, they didn't even try to manufacture consent. They didn't even try to justify their attack. They simply, we're going in, that's it, at least I don't know if this is any better, but at least during the war against Iraq, there was at least the fig leaf of hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is the tribute that vice pays to virtue, and they at least put forth the hypocrisy of lying and of trying to manufacture some kind of consent. This time round, they're not even trying that. It's just naked, brutal power, which is how empire has always functioned. Empire is naked and brutal, it's built on genocide, and it is an ongoing process of genocide. But they've dispensed with the niceties, dispensed with even the pretense that they're trying to do anything which is, moral, ethical, or, hypocritically virtuous. They just go in. And so, inside that context, I think that countries need to defend themselves. We saw this recently, the Shanghai Cooperative Organization. 10 of their defense ministers met in Beijing, if I'm not mistaken, a day ago. And then we also see that, Iran is considering using the Chinese navigation system, Beidou. And so all of this shows that, I think that they're deepening connections, they're deepening strengths within the global south, which unfortunately is what is necessary because right now the empire is on a rampage. They understand that their days are numbered. They're in school shooter mode. And unless the global south and the BRICS and the SCO find ways to securitize their existence, I think that the multipolar project, the counter-hegemonic project, will be put soon to a very ugly and violent death, as we're seeing in West Asia.